It's a great day on the internet, everybody, and welcome to Assemble. I'm Matt. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, it is Top Shelf Tuesday. Very, very excited because today we're going to be talking about our top 5 favorite Marvel TV shows, cartoon animated series that we grew up on as we were kids, and some of the even more recent stuff. Now, I know that there is a ton of animated cartoons out there. You cannot get mad at me that I didn't talk about every single version of Spider-Man. Although I would do an entire episode on that, let's be honest here. Now, what we are gonna do is we are gonna go and talk about these top 5 and just some of our absolute favorites. You can probably take a guess about who number 1 and number 2 are gonna be, but stay tuned for that. If you are new to the show, what I would love, everybody, is that you can go ahead and subscribe, hit the notification bell, and get updates on the 3 shows we do per week here on Assemble. Every week we are covering things from Marvel and DC and doing our figure unboxings, like our Wolverine that we're gonna actually be doing tomorrow on Wednesday. I'm very, very excited to be able to do that one with you. September is all Marvel, it's all MCU related, and I'm so excited about it. We had the WandaVision trailer, that reaction video went live. Man, I'm very excited about that show to see what they're actually gonna do with it. It's gonna be awesome. So if you guys like that type of content, subscribe and join the Assemble community today. Now, this only ran for 1 season in 2009, and it is the precursor to X-Men Evolution. And this is why it's actually number 5 and it's on my list for today. Because again, guys, this list is totally going to change every single day that we do this. So they tied it into X-Men Evolution as kind of the beginning to that. They also had it really have its kind of infancy when it was with Hulk versus Wolverine and going through that series as well. So they've tied this show into a couple of different things, kind of put it together and make it its own. It only ran for 1 season, like I said, but what I really liked about Wolverine and the X-Men is They took it in a new and different direction than that of like the animated series with traditional X-Men villains that we have come to know like pretty clear. We got to see like Emma Frost brought in, Kitty Pryde, Pyro. We still get, Emma Frost, Magneto, the Sentinels, the classic stuff that we know, but having different storylines and talking more about Rogue and Wolverine, the relationship there. And like at the, throughout the stories, you're getting the introduction, from, Emma Frost, like I said, Sebastian Shaw, the Inner Circle there. Like you're getting a good dynamic cast of characters. I like that we get to see Archangel brought in. There's a lot of good stuff here. And the reason why it's on number 5 on the list is because we were getting it as a precursor to X-Men Evolution, which really kind of took off in its own right. And what was kind of cool is the way they set up towards the ending of that 1 season is that they were talking about how it's now going to go from the Sentinels where they were battling Magneto and the Sentinels towards the end. And then we were actually going to be expanding into the Age of Apocalypse. So again, I thought this was a really good show, wishing that it would actually expand off into more, but I like the fact that we got introduction of new characters, new takes on classic characters as well, and that we were actually exploring different timelines and different story threads that we hadn't really seen before in animated shows. Number 4 on our list is actually going to be Ultimate Spider-Man. Running for 4 seasons from 2012 to 2017, Ultimate Spider-Man is really focusing in on a young Peter Parker, a young Spider-Man, really developing his skill sets as not only as a superhero, but really developing his teamwork skills. What we saw in Ultimate Spider-Man was the introduction of S.H.I.E.L.D., and really S.H.I.E.L.D. and Nick Fury bringing Spider-Man into S.H.I.E.L.D. to make him a member of it, and to form his team of superheroes. It was a nice, interesting take. It was a different take on a traditional Spider-Man cartoon, and it was bringing us an introduction of new characters and new themes and bringing Spider-Man into a larger cast of superheroes to fight all the super villains that we've come to know. And where we see like still some traditional cast of characters from Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, Sinister Six, you were able to kind of expand it out to have like Nick Fury in a different role, really supporting Spider-Man in this. And you were seeing Spider-Man as a young kid really, really develop into his own to become the ultimate Spider-Man at the very end. So what's really cool is that you're getting that classic kind of snarky, sarcastic, young, brash Spider-Man woven into a younger cast of characters. And that's why it's number 4 on my list, because 1, it had some longevity and some legs to it. They had the Spectacular Spider-Man as well, which was running a little bit differently and kind of in the same world, and they attempted that for a season, but it's Ultimate Spider-Man that really did a good job of kind of branching off into a younger version of Peter Parker. Coming in at number 3 is going to be X-Men Evolution. This show kicked off at 2000 to 2003, and we really saw it kind of take from the adaptation of what was going to be followed by Wolverine and the X-Men. And what was really nice about X-Men Evolution is that it was taking on a younger approach to the X-Men following the animated series. So what was nice is that we're getting a new crop of characters. We were seeing the focus really on the Brotherhood in season 1. You're getting the high school relationships between the X-Men characters, their actual relationships like Cyclops, Jean Grey, and you're introducing the evil element of a older Magneto who is kind of the father figure of the Brotherhood, leading them to try and stop the X-Men and get their evil plots and get all that stuff going on. But what was nice is that you're getting a good crop of characters from Xavier, Wolverine, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Nightcrawler, all of these, Storm as well. All of these characters, these core characters being like really brought to life again after the animated series. But we got to see other characters like the Blob and Pyro. These ones are really good. You get Spike in there too. So they did a good job of trying to expand the universe for the cartoons. And I like that they took a younger approach to this. We were only able to get 4 seasons out of this, but it's funny, I watched this show after it came out, like well after it was already out, because it's a much older gentleman, right? But what I did like was that I had 4 seasons of a show that was really going to be setting up and getting into kind of the next gen of X-Men. Now, at the very end of season 4, you're getting kind of that reunited team of X-Men back. We had the introduction of Apocalypse in there, taking out Magneto. You're seeing like the disbanding of the X-Men and then Xavier bringing them all back. It was really, really cool to see how they went about this type of story and trying to really appeal it to a younger audience. X-Men Evolution makes it on my list because I felt like it was a really good, solid successor to X-Men the Animated Series. I don't think it quite lives up to that because I felt that the characters in X-Men, the animated series in the early 90s, was really trying to take a more, I guess, grown-up approach to the characters, trying to go for more adult themes. And this way they really wanted to shift into a younger direction, which totally makes sense. But it goes a little bit lower on my list. That's why we have it in at number 3. But I did really enjoy it for what it was doing to be able to expand the universe beyond the core group of characters that we come to know. And coming in at number 2, everybody, is, you guessed it, is going to be Spider-Man, the animated series. Running from 1994 to 1998, we got 5 seasons of Spider-Man, the animated series. This is what really kicked off my love and appreciation for Spider-Man and the entire universe surrounding him and the expansion of characters and villains and really all of it. It was this and the comic books for Spider-Man. And this show brought me in as a lifetime fan of Spider-Man. I got statues of the stinking character now. I'm in my 30s and I got toys around me. I got X-Men and I got Spider-Man all over the place. Look at this place. It is ridiculous. So silly. My wife lets me do these things. But look at it. Being able to have that love and affection for a character, a comic book character that's preceding like an entire lifetime for me. And it really goes back to the animated series. Storylines with Venom, Carnage, Green Goblin, Hobgoblin, all of these guys, Dr. Octopus, Sinister Six. They did so much. It ran on Fox. You were able to get that dose of Spidey action on Sundays. We even got the crossovers with X-Men and Spider-Man. We had storylines with Madam Web, Fantastic Four were brought in, Doctor Strange. They did a ton of stuff within this show. The story arcs between Goblin, Mary Jane, and Peter. They did a death scene with Mary Jane, she dies, and Peter loses his mind, and it's so intense. And you felt so bad, and you're a little kid. You're a little guy. Green Goblin was behind it. There was like just so much investment in this. And it leads into furthering the entire lore of Spider-Man. And we had so many comic books around this, and we've had the action figures alone just propelled it for years and years. Coming back to it now. Look at me. Look at all the stinking stuff I got that's Spider-Man related. And so much of it has to do with this single show. It's a silly thing, but we had such an investment as kids with these types of shows that they gave you really that introduction into characters like Spider-Man, like X-Men. And Spider-Man specifically, this is why the character is so close to my heart, is not only because of the comic books that spanned, generations and decades of amazing stories by writers and illustrators and their take on Spider-Man. But the cartoon itself got me invested because it treated the character with respect. You've got goofiness and silliness and cheesy one-liners, of course you do. It's a kid's cartoon show. But I had to appreciate, and still do to this day, I appreciate the time and effort they took into fleshing out characters, and the villains made sense. The story arcs worked for the most part. We can go back now and cringe at Peter Parker and why is he like 6'8" and like, I don't know, his relationships with Mary Jane and how he's kind of a punk, but even though he's like completely jacked, but it's a kid's cartoon show. But they really fleshed out Peter, and especially at the point in the story arcs where he loses Mary Jane, and we see the introductions of Madam Web, the multi-dimensional stuff. There's some really great storytelling in there that are all really based around the comics that we've loved. Spider-Man comes in at a solid number 2 because it opened the doors for the expansion into Spidey Universe for me, and probably for a lot of you guys as well. And lineup after lineup of toys, and to see figures and statues today based around that show alone and that interpretation and take on Spider-Man as a character. And we now get like the retro series. We've come so far over, 25 years from this show coming on the air that we now get retro toy lineups. That's where we're at with this. And that, to me, that speaks volumes as to how impactful a TV show for kids on Fox really played into like generations of people wanting to play video games about Spider-Man, toys, hearing that theme song with that silly guitar riff. It all impacted us one way or another if we were fans of the series. And number 1 on our list is going to be, well, you guessed it, X-Men the Animated Series. X-Men the Animated Series began in 1992 and it ran for 5 seasons until 1997. It was preceded actually by the TV show and the pilot idea of Pride of the X-Men before that in about 1989. And then what they did was they actually be able to get it greenlit, and then they got the full season and they did the actual pilot episodes of Night of the Sentinel. Now, if you're like me, you grew up on X-Men the Animated Series. It is probably it has to be my absolute favorite cartoon of all time, even up until recent stuff today. Sure, there's campiness, and sure, it doesn't always hold up for some of them, and there's issues with the animation, of course, but it was X-Men. And it really set the tone and set the stage back in the early 90s of what animated cartoons of our superheroes could be. We'd seen stuff that had been explored in like the 60s, 70s, and 80s. There's a wide plethora of cartoons that are out there in general, but it really set the stage for being able to take on a fun tone, a serious tone, real storylines, story arcs as well, through just a 22-minute kids TV show on Fox Kids. So sitting down on Saturdays and Sundays and being able to watch all of those X-Men, sometimes you're getting double episodes, watching it after school, like come on, it was the best thing ever. You were able to get exposed to the classic suits of the X-Men as well. Getting Wolverine in the classic yellow, getting Cyclops in his harsh blue, his classic blue outfit. All of the characters they introduced over the years, creating great story arcs of fighting the Sentinels to Mr. Sinister to Magneto, Asteroid M. Like, we got so much when it came to this show. And for 5 seasons at 22 minutes apiece, you really felt like as a kid, you were getting that comic book brought to life. And they did it even one step further, because not only did we get the amazing animated series show, but it was allowing us to get exposed to things like the comic book line, which I have the entire set of, thankfully, which is the X-Men Adventures comic line. Now, it's absolutely totally just ripped off of the TV show. The issues are exactly the same as the episodes, but that was the fun of it, is being able to realize that I was able to watch these episodes, get the comic book, and vice versa. And it just expanded everything. And not only that, but the toys that came out that were based off of the animated series. Collecting every single one, every week, every month, getting a new version of Wolverine because they based it off of the TV show. It's all I wanted as a kid. X-Men the Animated Series is, for me, it's the quintessential animated show. Outside of, we look at DC, which is a totally separate show, but like Batman Adventures, Batman the Animated Series, that's on like the same level for me. But what about you guys? Let me know in the comments below. how do they rank for you? But X-Men the Animated Series really hits home because it set the stage and a really high bar, in my opinion, for what the Marvel TV shows, cartoons for kids can be. And being able to even go back right now on Disney and being able to watch some of those episodes. It's a really good hit of nostalgia. Some stuff still holds up, and some of the story arcs are actually pretty in-depth, and they're complicated. And thinking back of like, man, I was like, what, 6 or 7 or 8 watching these episodes? They hit on relationships and love triangles, and not only just trying to defeat Magneto, but understanding what their motivations were. There was a ton built in there, and it exposed you to a greater X-Men universe, which was really, really what I loved. Because now I play games today where I'm playing video games, I'm reading comic books, and it really starts to all snowball back to when I was a kid watching the animated series. And that's why X-Men the Animated Series is number 1 on my list. What do you guys think? How did you rank your top 5 Marvel shows? What's on your list? Let me know in the comments below. Would you change up the rankings of the list that we even have? I'd love to know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, thank you for assembling with us. See ya!